Welcome to Talking Politics. I'm Paul Gable. I'm here with my good friend and co-host John Bond Sr. And today we are entertaining Randall Wallace at the Grecian Delight Restaurant in Myrtle Beach. Randall's a Myrtle Beach City Councilman, and we'll be back to talk to him about city politics and the upcoming city election.
Blueberry's Grill is serving up fresh breakfast and lunch daily with locally sourced ingredients. Give your taste buds a treat with our unique twists on your favorite classic foods, like our daily specials or our appetizing omelets, biscuits and gravy with fresh sausage, or our unique sandwiches and burgers. Tour the kitchen where the passion and creativity begins and discover the secret of the delicious ingredients and flawless preparation. Blueberry's Grill, located at 7931 North Kings Highway. Come as a stranger, leave as a friend.
Welcome back. Here we are with Randall Wallace. I think the first thing I'd like to discuss with you is eminent domain.
Yes,
now, let me ask you a question. Two questions, actually. The Chapin Memorial Library, is that city-owned?
It's a city-owned library. It was donated. Chapin and Chapin, the Chapin Memorial Board still has some say over it, but it's a city function. There's city employees. It's a city department head that is the head librarian
that runs it. But is it city owned?
It's yeah. I mean, we own the park and the facility. The Chapin Foundation
owns the library itself, don't they?
They have a say in it because they donated the library. The story of how we ended up with it is it goes back to county government days, and it was a donation by the Chapin Foundation to us,
right? Which
is how we have the library,
right? And
we're the only city in the state that has one.
And the upcoming Children's Museum, is that city owned?
No, that's a private enterprise as far as I know.
So we have a semi-private enterprise, we have a private enterprise, but the city wants to use eminent domain to take properties to build a public building in which these private and semi-private entities will house.
Well, I mean, I think it's not right to call the library a semi-private. I mean, that is a government-run facility. I mean, it's like any other library in the county library system, except the city has it.
Well, no, it's not, because it was never donated by a trust, and there's no trust that has anything to say with a county library.
But this goes back to 1938.
I understand that, but
I mean,
what I'm saying is there is no trust in the county that has a say over the county library
But when
system.
the county government was set up, they were given jurisdiction over libraries.
Yes, they were.
We were exempt from that because this library had existed previous to county government. County government was created in 1977, 78.
So it's grandfathered in.
It was grandfathered in.
It was grandfathered in.
There was another city that had one.
Let me ask you one other question. Is it not true that your former city manager said a few years ago, we ought to turn off the lights, put the keys on the desk, and let the county take the keys if they want it?
He was never a big supporter of us having the library. We have twofold things we're trying to do there. One is to solve the library
But it's the way
issue.
you went about doing it. That's what the people and the public are irritated about. It was alleged that you had a secret realtor looking at some of the properties in downtown, looking to buy it, and then lo and behold, the secret buyer was the city of Myrtle Beach. It's the manner in which you did that, and we can go on other issues. The most prominent one that comes to my mind is that the one on Ocean Boulevard and the poor beachwear owners at that area.
Well, let's settle eminent domain
I'm going to go
first.
on and explore that later. But however, let's stay on this eminent domain issue. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, like I said, we're solving two problems. One was the library, and the facility is older, and we want to keep that building because I do at least because it's a historic building. But moving the facility to the downtown place would allow us to do a lot of upgrades, a new building, a new facility. The libraries do a lot of different things other than just check out library books anymore. And so you got that, but then you've got a real bold initiative to do something to change a part of downtown that is struggling. I mean, I read your columns. You hit us all the time about rising crime rates and problems. We had a lot of issues that were going on in that area, and it's unfortunate because I'm very sympathetic to the two businesses and the two landlord and businesses, and then there's a renter that this involves. But if you look at the rest of the block that was there, it was a very struggling location, and it was willing buyers, a willing buyer and willing sellers. We offered 30% more.
Well,
with
that's
those.
the story that goes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel pretty good about how we've worked with the folks there, and I'm hoping, as far as eminent domain goes, we authorize the manager to be able to do that. But we have told him that we want to come to an agreement with these folks, and we had a long meeting yesterday, an executive session in which that.
So in other words, it's like a club over the owner's head. We got eminent domain that we will use if you don't agree to us in another fashion.
Well, I'd like to look at it as we're
I'm
working.
sure you would.
We're working to do them, and like I have always, I'm not someone who likes the thought of using eminent domain. It's just a philosophical thing with me. But I do think that downtown, especially that area of downtown, we got some other issues on the boulevard, but that area of downtown has all but ceased to function. And the three thriving businesses that were there, other than these two, had created a number of issues. There were a couple of bars there that had been the source of some great issues that were spilling over into other parts of town. I mean, I've had to step up and stand up for the bar owners in this community over and over and over again, saying that you go after and you deal with the trouble spots, not everybody else, because we've got some bars on this end of town and on the south end of town.
And Broadway at the beach.
But Broadway at the beach is a different animal. None of them are open after 2. We've got about 20.
Nevertheless, you got problems, and you got a million policemen in the parking lot at 2 o'clock.
But we have operators here who have never had a police problem. And it was wrong to try to close them at 2 o'clock when their business is very dependent on doing 12 to 4 a.m. business, because we have a huge service industry in this town. And you have to be understanding of that. And the issues that were going on downtown concerning some of this that went on before we did the moratorium had created 3 or 4 attempts by city government to close everybody down at 2. And, I stood up against that because I didn't think it was fair. And you need to deal with the problems, not take it out on some of the other businesses here. And that was some of what had been a huge problem in this downtown area. And like I said, I'm very sympathetic to the owners of the 2 busises.
But you're undertaking too many projects.
We do have a lot
You're
going
just undertaking. You're going to have the resorting of the field in Myrtle Beach,
the
football stadium. The bonds are going to be coming up shortly with respect.
Returfing, but
returfing. That's going to be doing
that
returfing.
turf only lasted less than a decade.
They're planning on doing that. Then they put every place you look. There's a sports complex here in Myrtle Beach. They don't allow the beach to breathe. There's no breathing in the beach. There's no renourishment. They're just building. You got houses all over the place. You're clogging up the streets. You're making it difficult for some beach owner shops to operate. You keep impinging on their business. What more do you want from those poor operators? Now, my good friend Tim Wilkes has a gripe, and he says that, look, he set up a committee that he thought he was going to be working with the city insofar as resolving some of the issues that the city has with beach store owners. He sets it up, he goes to the meeting, and lo and behold, all his hard work goes down the drain. Now, what happened there?
Well,
Can you explain that to us? What
that
happened with respect to that?
There's a lot there to cover.
I understand that, but we have an hour show, so go ahead and start covering it.
Well, I mean, I'll do the beach thing. Of course, as you know, I did not vote along with about the situation that you're referring to about Mr. Wilkes. It was a 5-2 vote, as far as I know, and.
Yeah, but why do you let him go out?
I don't
who
think
lets
it's
him
gone
go
down
out and gets everybody on the same page? He's ready to operate. He feels that there is a resentment and a prejudice against Hebrews, against Israelites, against Jewish people.
I do not believe that's true.
That's his feeling, because most of the beachwear stores. Look, I'm not just casting aspersions out. This is what I hear. I'm just passing it along to you as a representative of all of the people of Myrtle Beach. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I want you to explain it so it's in the satisfaction of everybody's domain.
Well,
let him take a crack at it.
Well, I was going to say that's not reality. What is true is that we are trying to figure out a way to address some situations that are going on Ocean Boulevard. I asked about the committee and tried to help form it, and I voted against it largely because of the decision to go ahead and do first reading without that step in it, because I want folks like Mr. Wilkes and the folks that are in the retail businesses down there and all the businesses down there to feel like they're a part of whatever the solution we end up doing on Ocean Boulevard to deal with the issues that have led to a lot of different things that are happening down there. Council did not agree with that. They voted, the other way to go ahead and do first reading on the ordinance that passed yesterday. But they also ceded that they want the Planning Commission to have this committee and have them look at it and have retail establishment representatives on that committee. And I pushed for that, and I was very pleased to see that
That's a step in the right direction.
the Mayor Rhodes and Wayne Gray and the rest of council, but those were the two more vocal ones, very much agreed to that in the discussion yesterday.
So now you had first reading, but it's going back to the Planning
It will go
Commission
to the
for
planning-
further study,
for further study.
and we have no
And
idea when second reading's going to come about.
that's true. We don't, and it's not. We're not speeding it along or anything that they want to do, because we insisted on them maybe doing some kind of subcommittee and all that. We don't have a structure for any of this yet.
Right.
But then hopefully the retail folks will, and that's something that I insisted on, have a place at the table so that we can.
But are you
hear what their
satisfied
views-
with what's happening there? Are you satisfied as
obviously
one
I
of the
voted-
councilmen that plays an important role in this project? Are you happy?
Obviously, I voted against it. So
Okay.
I wanted the committee to have that be the route that we went before we passed any
Okay.
kind of
Who's
law.
opposing it then? Besides you.
I believe Councilman Louder, but
Okay.
I'd
So that
prefer
means the
letting them
mayor
answer,
is
so.
for it. The restrictions insofar as what the
With the mayor,
merchants are
The other-
supposed to sell and not supposed to sell.
the other
But there's
council
a
people.
First Amendment right there.
But let me tell you, in the mayor's defense, he was very much for this committee, and he very much made it a point at when they voted. They listened to the arguments that made, and that Mike Louder made, and then I think Mr. Wilkes came up and spoke, and there was a couple other folks throughout the process. They listened, and they were willing to do that. But they did go ahead and vote on that. But I think he made it very clear that he wanted there to be a place at the table for the retail merchants down there on the boulevard and the other businesses on the boulevard to be a part of whatever solution.
Well,
we do.
isn't
'Cause
that
we-
reasonable?
I
Isn't
think
that
so.
reasonable?
I mean,
But why would someone not acknowledge that as not being reasonable?
I
I mean, I
you know,
understand
I think
that. He pays his taxes, for God's sake.
I think there is, those folks. We need to build a more trusting relationship with some of the merchants on Ocean Boulevard, and I've been pushing that ever since this stuff happened Easter weekend, because I did not like some of the knee-jerk ideas that came to us from staff. But I do think we're making that effort.
We have to take a 1 minute break.
Randall, we want you to hold that thought for a second.
Okay.
We have to take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Blueberry's Grill is serving up fresh breakfast and lunch daily with locally sourced ingredients. Give your taste buds a treat with our unique twists on your favorite classic foods, like our daily specials or our appetizing omelets, biscuits and gravy with fresh sausage, or our unique sandwiches and burgers. Tour the kitchen where the passion and creativity begins and discover the secret of the delicious ingredients and flawless preparation. Blueberry's Grill, located at 7931 North Kings Highway. Come as a stranger, leave as a friend.
Welcome back. We're sitting here with Randall talking.
He's on the
about
hot seat. Randall's
talking
on the hot
about
seat.
It's
Ocean
definitely
Boulevard. Let me ask you a question. By the first reading of that ordinance, the way that ordinance is set up, is there a 12-month clock on it that starts at first reading?
There would be an amortization period that would begin. I think once second reading read. So actually, I think the
Do we
12
know?
months would. My interpretation of it, and I know it's different, Mr. Wilson. I can check to make sure at some point, but I believe that the 12-month part would start once second reading.
Because that's
read.
important. I mean,
it is very important. I understand.
If you've got, if it starts at first reading, the clock, and then you jerk around with the committee, you can jerk around with committee a long time, subcommittee or whatever, and you can bring it back 8 months later, and all of a sudden there's only 4 months left.
And I believe that it should start at second. I know the doctrine, and I'm trying to think
Why
what
don't
they
you
call
check
that.
on- why don't you check
I
on
will
that?
check on it.
The-
but-
the
but
impending
we're
ordinance
just doctrine.
But let me
It was
ask
not
you a
a
question.
part of this, so it would not, like a moratorium would have been had we passed it. And we did do that with the bars that we were just talking about a minute ago. That was not part of this one, so that
Okay,
clock
can I
should
really
start
put
at
you on the
second.
hot seat?
Should start at second reading.
If we reach second reading of this ordinance, which I believe we will at some point, if it appears in any way, shape, form, or language, not even the impending ordinance doctrine, but just somewhere in the language, it appears to start at first reading. Can we ask you to make an amendment to make sure that it doesn't start till second?
I was opposed to, I voted against it, so yeah, but I would be opposed to starting it based on yesterday, because there's going to be a lot of work that I think is going to need to be done.
I think so.
With the Planning Commission, and I want the folks that are the retailers and all that to be a part of this thing, because whatever we end up doing, we need to be more of a team and have a better relationship down there.
You got to have a better relationship with a lot of people in this town,
and you can't force stuff on people. Change. I hear a lot of folks say, that the businesses down on the boulevard they're a vote no all the time. They're against everything we do. But a lot of times the only things we've asked them to do is either pass a mid, which would raise their taxes, or change the traffic patterns, which would change how they've done business forever, or like the situation with some of the merchandise that they've got. And I think we need to build a better team relationship. And I will have to say that I felt like council moved in that direction despite voting for this yesterday. They really did acquiesce to my request for the retailers to have a part in whatever committee was formed. And, there was an attempt by one to kind of say, well, they can come and speak in front of the Planning Commission. And the mayor stepped up and said, no, that they really needed to be a part. So I think we made that clear in what's going to go to the Planning Commission. Even though, like I said, I voted against it.
All we can do is sit and watch.
But one of the reasons that I was willing to go out on a limb and vote against it, because, this is a vote that could be easily distorted, was I want to make it clear I want these folks to have.
You're afraid that if you get a political opponent, it'll be Randall Wallace supports pornography? Is that what you're saying?
I get that. I get and understand how this game works, but I went out on that limb
because
I want it to be clear to staff and to the commissioners who I have faith in. I want these folks to have a seat at the table, because I think the only way you're ever going to have any kind of us all working together to change what are the problems we got down there is if the merchants feel like they're part of the team. And I want to make them.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm not so sure you shouldn't put a permanent subcommittee in there to work with the Planning Commission, because this is one issue of many issues.
But he did something good, Randall.
He did.
He
came here and agreed to be sitting on a hot seat for.
Well, not only that, but also he turned the tide insofar as that one way in Ocean Boulevard, where everybody wanted to have a different traffic pattern with respect to Ocean Boulevard, going from where was that, Ocean Boulevard, 17 North down to what, 6 or so? You wanted all of that to be one way.
Well,
and then you brought some sense to the council and you say, no way, let's not do that. We'll make more of a problem than we'll solve. Isn't that what you did? Or?
Well, it would have been changing it from a 4-lane traffic plan that's in there now to 2 lanes with turn lanes and 2 bike lanes.
We almost tried that with the limo buses a decade ago or more. Maybe it's 13 years.
And that was part of. There was a lot of issues that I had with the way that whole thing developed. It was part of a plan that the manager and the police department brought to us about how to address some issues that they felt.
Well, how did you turn the tide?
Well,
it was a 6-1 for it. Now you turned it against it 6-1.
Well, I don't want to say. I just felt
like.
Well,
you did turn the tide, did you, or did you not?
Well,
did you vote against the original concept?
Well, we didn't vote. We argued.
But you said it was 6-1, wasn't it?
Well, it was very clearly that all of council was in favor of moving that day, and I made the case at that council meeting that, hey, this is one of the biggest issues, and everybody knows it for businesses downtown. And we shouldn't be making this decision in 10 minutes on a Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning at a special meeting that no one knows anything about what we're doing.
That's right.
And then, of course, they showed up later on, most of the business folks, to argue against it, because it was in the morning session of the meeting. And so we continued it until the next week. And in that time, I think the business owners, and they talked to council members, and council members realized, hey, maybe we don't need to move so quickly to have a knee-jerk reaction to what had happened Easter weekend, and I felt like that was a good decision to leave it alone.
That was a smart decision,
and
not only a good one, but a smart one.
Well, because
knee-jerk reactions have been typical of the city council, though. I mean, they really have.
That's not.
And I'm glad to see that maybe we're stopping. I want to ask you something. In this spirit of inclusion, and getting input from business owners, from residents, and what have you, When you guys go to extend the 1 cent local option sales tax, will you put it to a referendum, or are we going to go back to this supermajority voted council again, where nobody has a say but 5 members?
Well, you're talking about the tourism development fee.
I am.
The 87% tax.
I'm talking about the no. Look,
tax
you can
cut.
claim that that's a tax cut.
It is to
okay
homeowners in Myrtle Beach.
to 4% homeowners in Myrtle Beach. It does nothing for your 6% properties, and it does nothing for your 10% properties. It is a gift to the Dunes Club and the Grand Dunes and what have you.
Everybody likes to point to the wealthiest. And we got somebody
do
out
you
there that-
deny that they don't get the best benefit?
My taxes are $650 on my 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath condo
Okay.
apartment.
Okay.
And now I pay $150.
Okay.
That does a whole lot for me.
Okay.
Probably more than it does for the wealthiest guy in town who gets
So
a
it's-
sizable break.
So
but
it's
it
not
helps.
a tax now. It's
a-
actually a property tax reduction.
Relief. It's a tax relief.
So
it's actually
do we
a-
give the chamber
You say
$20 million
reduction.
a year out of that in fake money,
Hey,
or do they
Paul.
actually get real money?
No, they get $20 million, and they,
So
and,
we
and
are
the
raising
growth,
money
and the
from
growth
somebody,
that you
are
see
we
in
not?
this city, the growth that you have seen in this city over the last 9 years, I think, in my opinion, is a direct result of the tourism development fee. I'm proud of that piece.
Are you aware of the fact that the accommodations tax peaked, collections peaked in 2014? You've been down the last 3 years.
Well, accommodations is not. You have to
All
look
right,
at
so people
overall.
aren't staying in hotel rooms.
The tourism development fee has increased 25% since the day we started it.
It has, but
And-
how much? But
and
it's
that is
1
a direct
cent on
result-
everything.
But that's right. 1 cent on all,
It's
all
1
the
cent on
economic
what's
activity.
bought in Myrtle Beach by the citizens of Myrtle Beach 365 days a year. Your accommodations tax collections, which is a direct result of what hotel rooms and condos are being.
But
but
you
the
got to
growth in that-
Paul. Let
There
him,
is no
let
growth
him,
in
let
that.
him, let him
It's
Paul, let him explain himself. I mean,
But there are-
you're
Okay,
asking him
all right.
about 7 questions. The poor guy can't answer one. Go ahead, Randall. Try.
There are a lot of
attempt.
factors.
Go ahead,
in
Randall.
the
Go ahead.
accommodations. You need to look at the actual tax itself. 25% growth in that, and you look at the 3 million that have come here since we started that. When we started the tourism development fee we had about 14 million annual visitors. Now they're saying 17.98 million.
When you started the tourism development fee, you were in the midst of the biggest recession this country's ever had.
and therein lies the actual sort of template
you were
that was
going to
used.
have a bounce back when conditions got better.
But the template that was followed was the same as Post and Kellogg's. It was the two cereal companies from the Great Depression. One cut their advertising budget. The other one continued to advertise, held their own during the Depression. And when the Depression lifted, I want to say Kellogg's, as best I recall, is the one grew to become the fastest growing cereal company in America. And I think you're looking at even the problems that we have in Myrtle Beach right now are a direct result of the effectiveness of that and the number of tourists that are coming to the area.
Councilman
Well, I'm going to
Wallace,
tell you this. I read those numbers differently, Randall.
Can I interject here? Paul asked you a question. Is it going to a vote to the public, or is the council going to vote on it?
I don't know. We have not discussed
What do you
the
think?
state.
What is your feeling on that?
My feeling is that if it went to a referendum, it'd win. I mean, I think the voters here support it.
So
and
you
I think
don't,
see
you
the
don't
results
mind it
of
going
it.
for a referendum?
I myself have no objections to it.
Yeah,
It's the only 1 cent local option sales tax in the state that's never had a referendum on it.
Well, it was when we enacted it to
Well,
begin
they
with.
may
it was an
change.
emergency.
According to Randall,
It
may
wasn't an
change.
emergency. You could have held a referendum.
Well, it was an emergency measure to keep our economy competitive during the 2009 crash. You forget,
That's
and I was
true.
in the real estate business. I can tell you, 2008 and 9 when that crash happened, the real estate business didn't
you were
slowly
suffering.
decline. It stopped.
Right.
And
Of
there
course
was a lot
it did,
of that.
because all these bandit companies
But
that
do you
were
know-
putting
do you know,
bogus mortgages out crashed. I mean, you had no
but it
money.
was-
But
the
people,
economy stopped.
Randall,
and so
Randall,
we do
people
it.
outside of the city that have a zip code of 29577, they also pay the tax.
Well-
so you get people in Carolina Forest, you got people in Socastee
There are
that
complaints of that.
29577. They're paying the tax. They don't get any benefit
And,
insofar
well, the city
as
doesn't get any of that either. I mean, that goes
Well,
to the state and then come
well,
back
whatever.
to us.
But the
wanna-
fact remains that they're paying the tax, and so it's discriminatory toward those people that have to pay the tax that don't get any benefit. That's what we're saying.
Well, businesses
So
that are not in the city
consequently,
limits should not be charging that.
Well, my point. Let me develop my point, because they are outside. When you do have a referendum, will you allow people that are in that zip code to 9577. You're shaking your head, Paul. I'm just asking him the question, not you.
Yeah, but you can't have a city referendum and extend it beyond the voting
if they're
precincts
paying
of
the
the city.
tax and they don't have any representation,
But
Paul,
I agree, and
what,
they ought to
what,
get
what
awfully
solution
mad,
we have?
and
Now we have
they
to
don't
go,
have a solution,
We go to
John.
our county council member and say, "Hey, look, we're paying this tax. What do you want them to do?"
But they're not
They can't
supposed
do
to be
it.
paying that tax.
But they are paying
if
the
a business
tax.
outside the city is
People-
charging
people-
that, they're not supposed to be
Look,
charging it.
I'm in Cameron Crawford's district. Okay, Cameron Crawford is outside of
Yes, sir.
the Myrtle Beach City. Okay, he has a representation of those residents that have a zip code 29577, and they're paying the taxes. So should we burden Cameron Crawford, who has no say in that? Can we burden him and say, "Hey, can you do something about it?" He can't do anything about it. Is that fair to him and fair to his constituents?
It's not. And,
Of course it's not.
But
And
Randall
that's
is
the
correct
point.
on the point that the businesses that are outside the city limits of Myrtle Beach should not be collecting it.
They should not be charging that.
And why they
But
are?
it's on my phone bill. It's on my cable bill. It's on my water bill. It's on all
Now,
those
how
bills.
does it get there?
I don't
It's
know.
on my
That's-
bill. I asked Roddy Dickinson. He said, "Well, you're 29577. You're in the city of Myrtle Beach." I said, "I'm not in the city of Myrtle. I'm just outside, but I have property in the city of Myrtle Beach. I don't mind paying the taxes there." But what am I supposed to do? Bang on the head of my poor county councilman, Cameron Crawford,
Well, no,
and,
he's-
burden him?
He's got
That's
nothing
not
to
fair to
say.
him.
But I think possibly the city should look into this.
We have
Please.
the city
Please.
has
You
made
know
it
what I
very clear.
heard? You know what I heard? The city loves to collect taxes. They love taxes.
That's not-
Ask Tim Wilkes. He'll tell you. They love tax. 11.5% we pay taxes. 11.5% we go to a restaurant in the city of Myrtle Beach. Not that I'm griping much,
No.
which everybody thinks I'm not telling the truth, but that's how I feel. You know what I
But let me-
heard?
let me- let
You
me
know what
just-
I heard?
but, John, let me
You're
s-
wasting time by going there.
Well,
That's what I heard. I don't know if
and
it's
that's
true or not.
opinion, and
Well, aren't they allowed an opinion?
they are very. It's America.
All right,
Yes,
so
sir.
that's
They're
part of
very
your
much allowed opinion.
constituents. Those are the constituents. That's not me.
But-
this is what I hear.
But the planning commission is they that's their duty. They study issues. They in depth. They have the committees. They spend the time doing that. Bring the recommendation to us because we have a wide, and this is one of the problems I think that does exist in government, and one that I've tried in my time to address by listening to people and going and talking to them and having them become, is that we have a wide range of things. I mean, one day we could be looking at a PUD downtown. The next thing we're dealing with beachwear issues that had to do with the stores on the boulevard. The next thing we're dealing with mopeds. The next thing
But
we're
you're
doing
it.
sports
You
tourism.
You're saying you're doing. I'm talking about the planning board.
But let me
No.
let me finish the
We only
question,
have- we
John.
only have
One of
30
the problems
seconds left.
one of the problems with
Quick.
government is that there's such a wide range of things that we're doing. A lot of times you make decisions, and then there are ramifications that come up that you've got to do. And that's what it looks like we're
realize that.
incompetent
I
a
know
lot of
that.
times. You know, it looks like everybody goes, God knows how they make a
I
decision
agree with that.
crazy. But you know, I don't know what oceanfront merchants deal with day in and day out because I'm not one. That's why I go listen to them, and that's why I've gone to bat in those in those issues that have affected them
and you
most
to be
recently.
commended for it.
And I do think that's one of the things that government struggles to correct all the time is that they say, hey, we got to solve this problem, and they go to solve this problem, and then there's a lot of other issues.
The law of unintended consequences.
But
and you've got to react to that.
I want you to know, Randall.
And we do the best we
I really
can.
appreciate all the work you do. I played the devil's advocate today with you, only because of the fact that I hear all of these commentaries that come in, and a lot of people call me and they say, "Can you do something? Can you do something?" And I usually say, "I'll try. I'll try." But let me just say this: you have, in my estimation, a very good police department under Warren Gall. Now, Paul is going to hold his head and
Yep.
and make faces, but that's one man's opinion.
Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for sitting on the hot seat. You did a very fine job.
I think I enjoyed it.
And we'll look forward to what's going to develop with the Ocean Boulevard merchants and what have you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Paul Gable, and we're done.
Bye-bye.
Blueberry's Grill is serving up fresh breakfast and lunch daily with locally sourced ingredients. Give your taste buds a treat with our unique twists on your favorite classic foods, like our daily specials or our appetizing omelets, biscuits, and gravy with fresh sausage, or our unique sandwiches and burgers. Tour the kitchen where the passion and creativity begins and discover the secret of the delicious ingredients and flawless preparation. Blueberry's Grill, located at 7931 North Kings Highway. Come as a stranger, leave as a friend.
I'm Randall Wallace. I'm a Myrtle Beach City Councilman, and I spent a day here in the hot seat on the show. And I actually enjoyed it. It's fun to get to go back and forth with some folks and see what people are thinking out there and answer your questions. So I really enjoyed it, and I also recommend the Grecian Delight, who hosted this today. An outstanding restaurant. They got great food, and I've enjoyed it every time I ever come up here, which is pretty frequent.